Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, why don't you start off then with, since it's the most recent thing, start off with Splitsville, which is in theaters now.
Sure. So saw a trailer for it, I want to say a month or two ago, and Dakota Johnson's been pretty much everywhere. I feel like she's definitely been in more movies since I think COVID or do we want to call it post-COVID? Let's say like 2022 and beyond. I just saw her with my girls group a couple months ago in Materialist, which I very much so liked. That was with Pedro Pascal
Hmm.
and
Chris Evans,
Chris
right?
Evans,
Yeah.
yep, yep. And that was a cute rom-com. Really enjoyed that. And I guess maybe a month or two later, I saw a preview for Splitsville, which I was like, okay, she's really spreading her wings and leaning. I mean, we have seen her in a few dramatic pieces, but she's, continuing and leaning into what she does very well with, which is these like rom-com type of movies. So Splitsville is about a couple and the main guy, his name is Carrie. He's played by Kyle Marvin, who I'm not familiar with, and him and his wife, Adria, how do you pronounce her last name?
Arjona?
Arjona? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Arjona, his wife Ash, she plays Ashley, are driving for a weekend getaway, and they end up getting into a car accident, which is pretty ridiculous at the beginning. And as they're pulled over to the side of the road, she tells him that she doesn't want to be with him anymore and she's leaving him and she's been seeing somebody else. And he's like, are you kidding? Like, is it a one-time thing or is it, just a two-time thing? She's like, no, it's been a while. I've been hooking up with somebody else. And he's just beside himself. He gets out of the car, he walks out through the road, through God knows, like field, water. He's just like, I'm getting the heck out of here. And then he appears in the backyard of his best friend Paul, who is played by Michael Angelo Cavino and is married to Julie, who's played by Dakota Johnson. And he is completely just broken. And they say, yeah, we really liked her. It's upset. She already told us. She's already dropped off some of your things. And they comfort him and tell him, like, you can stay with us, not a problem. That couple, Julie and Paul, are, I believe they have two places. They live somewhere in like Long Island. They also have a place in Manhattan. And Paul has like this big job, I think real estate, from what I recall, out in the city. And Dakota Johnson's character, Julie, she does ceramics and pottery from home and is more of like a stay-at-home mom to their young son who's about, let's say, middle school age, give or take, maybe like 10, 11, 12, younger middle school age. And you come to find pretty early on in the movie, he asks Carrie, like, what is keeping your marriage alive and keeping things really just ongoing and well? And they said, well, we actually have an open marriage, but it's only on Paul's side. He sees people, I don't ask about it, and that's how we stay happy. And he couldn't believe it. At one point, he's like, really? And they say, yeah, yeah, pretty much. We love each other, but I don't ask questions, etc. And at this point, Carrie's staying with them for a couple of days, weeks, and he gets close to Julie, the wife, and they end up having sex after being very close. And she opens up and says, yeah, I feel lonely because he'll be out in the city for quite a lot. And this family has a huge, beautiful home. They're millionaires. They make a lot. Well, Paul makes a lot of money. And Paul says, like, yeah, I don't care if Julie does anything with anyone. I just don't want to know about it myself. Then he finds out the next day, Carrie and Paul are in the living room and he's like, hey, I have to tell you something. I slept with your wife. And he freaks the heck out. And it reminded me a little bit of Bridget Jones, where they're like, oh, I'm totally cool with it. And then they start punching each other and just crazy, ridiculous things there, breaking glass. At one point, there's a scene where they go to the son's bedroom and they end up breaking this fish tank And they like stop the fight and they start taking like the bottoms of their shirts and put the fish in their shirts and run it to the bathroom to put in the bathtub to save the fish. It's hysterical. And then as soon as that's good, they continue fighting and hitting each other. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool. We're cool." But he's so pissed that his best friend slept with his wife. He's like, "Anyone else? Why him?" So at that point, that definitely causes tension in their marriage. And you come to find that Paul, her husband, is not doing well financially and made, I guess, a bad deal where now they're screwed and they're going to lose their house, they're going to lose their car, everything. So at this point, Julie's like, why did I give up my life, work life to be a stay-at-home woman? You're out in the city gallivanting with who knows who, making bad business decisions and sleeping around with other women. And here I am just like alone at home taking care of our son, and you're nowhere to be found. I think I'm done. So, and another piece of it too is that Carrie is actually, I believe, the phys ed teacher, or and he's definitely the coach of the son at the school that he goes to. So not only are they like very close friends and he's close with a couple, but he also works at the school that their son attends, which seems to be like a very private, like academy type of
Mm.
school for children with money. So he does that, and it definitely puts a little bit of awkwardness between them, given that Julie has feelings for Carrie and whatnot. And then at one point, Carrie goes back home to Ashley, his wife, who apparently was sleeping around. And it's funny because she is with like a guy who's maybe like in his early 20s, like way younger than her, with some tattoos and is with the guitar. And sh you could just tell she's like in this phase where she just wants to sleep around and such. And at one point, Carrie's like, "Well, I'm going to live here too. I'm also like on the deed for the house. Like I am entitled to this house too." So she's like, "Fine, whatever." And then their house gets more and more populated with men that she's sleeping with. So like they have this rock star who doesn't know what he wants to do, or this guy playing guitar who's like young and in shape, no idea what he wants to do for his life. And he's just kind of like, "Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna stay here because I don't really have a place to go and I don't have like a stable job." And then they bring this, I guess she's hooking up with this guy who does massages and he's like this holistic healer. So he's at one point like massaging Carrie, which is hysterical. He's like, "Oh, great. Like I get free massages. I'm at home." And then they have like more people coming in. And then once Paul and Julie break up, Paul starts to live in the house too. So it's funny in that sense, but overall the movie was a bit ridiculous because it's like because you come to find at the end of the movie, I don't know if you're going to plan to see it, but sorry, spoilers, like you find out Paul was just saying that because he's so afraid of losing his wife. He just says that he's seeing other people, but he actually doesn't. He claims that he has never slept with anyone before. He said that because he felt like Dakota Johnson's character, Julie, is so out of his league. That's how he used it almost like as a manipulation tactic to not have her break out in the marriage, which really ends up screwing him. So it gets to the point where like everybody starts sleeping with everyone. It gets really, really weird. And it's like everyone's got an open marriage now. And out of the like five of us that were at the movie, only one girl liked it. It started off very funny, but then it got to the point where it was just so dumb, where the kid's like, "Oh yeah, my mom's now like with my dad's best friend, so he's not really my stepdad, but he's also my coach," like trying to explain the relationship of Carrie to people. And that's my dad, and my mom and my dad aren't really talking to each other right now. I'm pretty sure they're getting divorced. It's that part was just kind of bizarre. Um, I don't want to say it's unrealistic because, like, how many times do you hear that somebody's sleeping with a teacher of a kid? Like, it's happened before.
Yeah.
But just in terms of like this revolving amount of people in one home and then all these open marriages, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, the opening seems also ridiculous. Actually, I'll tell you the opening scene. This is what leads to the car conversation of, "Hey, I want out of the marriage." Um, Ashley, who's played by Adria Arjona, is giving Kyle Marvin, who plays Carrie, a hand job as they're going on a trip. And they end up getting into a car accident and running another car off the road, and the husband survives and the wife gets thrown from her car and dies as a result of the whole hand job, like reckless driving. And it's just kind of ridiculous where like at first everyone's laughing. It was like, yeah, I don't know how funny this is.
Yeah,
I thought that was a little like they took it a little
a
too
little too
far.
far. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the opening scene. But
Oh shit.
that was the opening scene, Kevin.
All
And
right.
at that point it continues with, hey, like this was rough. I was going to do this, when we got to our destination, but I'm sleeping with somebody else and we should probably not continue this relationship. I think I'm done.
Yeah, it
Weird,
sounds.
right?
Yeah, it sounds. I mean, it sounds like it could be fun if it was done right. Like, it would make a really good comedy, but you have to be careful with anything like this because if you slip into either silly or over the top, you kind of lose the whole gimmick of it almost.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's some romantic comedies. I'm like, all right, this was good. I mean, I personally did it keep my interest the whole way? Sure, but it got to the point where I'm just rolling my eyes where I'm like, this is ridiculous. And it's done in like 4 or 5 parts. And it's funny because one of my friends who's in the group, she's an attorney, and she says, oh, yeah, these are parts of a prenup or like prenuptial agreement. Like,
Hmm.
I think she said, was it prenup or for divorce? It's like the 4 parts. Yeah, I don't know. It was either prenup or divorce. Let's go, maybe divorce. Let's go with divorce. That's probably more appropriate. Yeah, so the 4 parts of a divorce. So like because it's broken up into 4 or 5 parts, almost like chapters in the movie. So it will be like
Hmm.
part four or whatever. And she's like, she tells us, told myself and my friends, the other girls that were there afterwards, she's like, oh yeah, that's like part of a divorce, or I guess the 4 parts in like from a document standpoint of a divorce. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, like I wouldn't have known that. So that was interesting. Yeah, it's not prenuptial, it's got to be divorce. But yeah, nonetheless, that's how it's modeled. And I was like, I thought they were just giving it chapters, but no, that's how it follows. So yeah, but yeah, I didn't find that opening scene to be funny at all. It'd be one thing, it's like if they ran off the road, but they
Yeah.
killed
Yeah.
somebody. And I know people are laughing. I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like this is how it opens. They kill someone from reckless driving, and then, hey, I don't think we should be together anymore. It's just it was odd, very odd.
Yeah. It definitely feels like they're going for a specific mood or a specific thing, but it does sound like a weird way to do it.
Yeah, but the interesting thing, Kevin, is that Rotten Tomatoes, 87 from the critics and 91 from the audience. So clearly people are liking this. I did not. I don't know.
Yeah. Trying to see if try to see if I could find a negative review on it. Yeah, it's absurdist cringe comedy.
Yeah, I'm seeing that one.
Yeah.
Embraces the awkwardness of its characters and circumstances, but also overburdened with, yeah, it's definitely eccentric for sure. I mean, the car accident scene was more just like, what the heck? I don't know. Like, it'd be one thing if like they get off again, ran off the road themselves,
Hmm.
but for it to kill somebody else, like that was just really, I think, a bit much.
Yeah, it would almost make more sense for them to run off the road. One of them, he ends up in a coma. She finds out that she wants to be with
Right,
other people, and then it goes from there. Something,
right.
something that would make it more, I don't know, more funny, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty dark way to open it.
It was very dark. I'm curious. I'm sure someone had to write about that because at first I was like, what the hell? But yeah, it does talk about the modern concept of open marriages. It doesn't judge the idea or come down for against it. Yeah, I don't know. But meanwhile, it does, but also like at the end too, both couples end up going back to their respective partners who they were initially married to because they miss their partners. So what's the point of it? It maybe is that how marriages sometimes are, how people want to put themselves out there and then they have regret and they realize what they lost. I
Yeah,
don't know,
yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of relationships that are like that though. Like that's the whole grass is always greener
type of
like
thing.
thing. Yeah, and that's probably what they're going for. But like thinking of weird things that are supposed to be a comedy. There was the Emma Stone show, but it was a comedy, and she was or supposed to be a comedy, but it was so weird that I couldn't find it funny.
Hmm.
It was called. It was only in the last couple of years, and she was selling real estate, or they were doing a TV show, like a home makeover show together, her and her husband. And it was just like weird because there was a bunch of jokes about how he had like a micro penis, and it was just like it was so. It's called The Curse, and I
Oh,
think it was on
I
HBO.
remember that coming out. I didn't see it, but yeah.
Yeah, it was really weird, and it was like painful, but it was supposed to be funny, and like I couldn't get behind it. And so it was a struggle to watch and enjoy, but it like critically it did pretty well, I think. So it is interesting to see, what that difference is for other people.
Mm. Yeah, it's just it was very, very, very bizarre. But
Right.
I know I didn't really. There were certain parts I laughed, but I got to the point where, and I was asking, like I could see one of the girls just like rolling her eyes, like when is this gonna end? It definitely was longer than I think it needed to be. Like I said, one girl liked it, and I think the rest of us were like, like could have done without it. And I'm all about like funny rom-coms occasionally. I mean, I don't love rom-coms, but I'm like, you know what? Whatever. Let's entertain this. I thought it was only just like one couple doing the open marriage thing, but this was just it got to the point where everybody's doing it, and then it's just like, ugh, okay,
Yeah, it sounds like it's almost like a statement movie, like they're trying to,
correct.
yeah,
But a statement being like, all right, get it out of your system and then go back to your partner because you'll never have it this good. You
yeah,
know, like I don't know. I just and it's just the way that they broke it. Like no one's actually gonna go through something like that so traumatic, like a car accident, and then be like, "Hey, 5 minutes later, I think we should break up."
yeah.
It's just ridiculous. So yeah, but then again, some people are like, "Oh, so funny," because it's so ridiculous. But
Yeah, I see that a lot, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It's weird to me that you would try to be weird to be funny, and I know it works sometimes, but a lot of times I feel like it just doesn't, and I
mhm,
think it takes a special writer and creator to make that work, and it's definitely not for everybody.
yeah, but I mean. It got mostly good reviews. So again, I think some people will just, you know how some people just like weird stuff. I don't want to say
Yeah,
weird stuff, but just like crappy, unbelievable stuff.
yeah,
I I think it's for more of those people, like the unrealistic side of things.
yeah. And to be fair, like you can do comedy that way because comedy can be absurdist. Like you can get away with that, but
Yeah.
I still think there has to be a a well like navigated path to make it work. So it definitely doesn't always work. And I think being weird and hoping it's funny isn't always gonna play out for you.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's some good ones, and then I mean, the Materialist was very good, very good. And maybe that spoke more to the girls group because I was more about like a matchmaking service and more relevant to our group, given that a lot of us are single and the whole matchmaking thing is becoming more popular now that
Hmm.
there's, I think, a decline in usage for dating apps, or at least there's a lot of, I think, idiosyncrasies relating to d dating apps, particularly after or like post-COVID. We'll call it post-COVID. I think more and more people are getting like dating app burnout. So they're like, yeah, matchmaking services, why not? So it's hard to say, but
Yeah.
I think something like that's more relatable to people than bizarre open marriage scenarios where they're just like completely, I mean, I think eccentric is really the best word to describe this film.
Yeah.
Truly, there's just so many weird. I mean, guys get into fights, but like breaking windows and just, I mean, the fight that they had was definitely another level than just throwing some fists. They tore apart the house.
Yeah. Which like it's funny because that makes me think of, thinking about people tearing apart the house makes me think of the original like War of the
War of
Roses.
the
Something like
Roses. I
yeah.
was just thinking of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was saying that, I was like, oh wait, like War of the Roses. Yes.
Yeah, so like it can work. It can work perfectly
Sure.
or it cannot. Like that so there is definitely a delivery like to it that you have to be able to pull off.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, whatever. I saw it. Won't be seeing it again, but yeah, I still like Dakota Johnson. I still think she's solid, but sometimes you gotta have. I mean, you think about Tom Hanks, how many like shitty movies he's been in so many movies. They can't all be winners, right?
yeah. Well, and I think Dakota Johnson isn't I don't think she steers away from projects. Like I think if the money is there
For
and
sure.
it interests her at all, she's just going to do it and she doesn't really give a shit if it works out or not. Like she
Right.
did Madam Web,
Madam
which is an
Web.
absolute bomb. And like when she was interviewing about it, she was like, she's basically like, I don't even know what this thing is. Like she's in it,
Yeah,
had no heart in it whatsoever, but it was a paycheck. Like she was getting the money for it. And I think,
sure.
being the child of two professional actors, you see the work come and go for them. Like her dad was the
Right.
hottest thing in the world for, the early 80s, and then he kind of disappeared and was in some stuff and probably would be still
Sure.
considered a successful actor, right? Like he did whatever the older cop show he was, not Miami Vice, but he did something later on that he did for a long time. And then he's been in movies and stuff recently and all that, but he's never going to be the star again. And Melanie Griffith never really made it as a movie star.
She's a
She
Broadway person.
is she really?
She's
She
done Broadway, yeah.
yeah, she did a movie like I feel like she did a movie called Milk Money, and I think it's what like
And Working
really
Girl. I know her from Working Girl.
yeah, Milk Money like hurt her career because it was like a kid hired her. She was a prostitute and he hired her and the kid was like young, like
Hmm.
I don't even know if the kid was actually a teenager, and I forget what the purpose was. If it was to get with his dad or something, but I think she was just supposed to act as his mom. But then it's like she ends up kissing this kid, and it's like weird, and
Yeah.
it, like even for the like 80s or whatever it was weird. And so like I think that kind of hurt her career a little bit, and just the fact she's not a great actress, and so I think. If you're Dakota Johnson, you probably see your parents have a quick rise and fall. Like they were a big deal early, and then their careers were kind of over. And
Hmm.
so she's gonna ride that wave. I feel like for her, acting is a business. She grew up in it. I think I've said this before too, but like she watched her parents do it. She watched her parents do it for work.
Hmm.
And so she just understands that the more work she does, the more money she gets, and that's she's going to work and do that. And so you'll get a winner like the Sean Penn one where she was in the cab the whole time. Like
Oh yeah, yeah.
I forget the name of that one, but that one was good. Like I liked that one. I was really glad I caught that
I
one.
like that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and so she can act. She can do some really good stuff, and then she can do the Madam Webs and the things that kind of suck. So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
called Daddy-O.
Daddy, oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think I agree that's the best thing. Like from an acting standpoint, that's the best I've seen. Seems like same
Hmm.
thing for you, seeing her and like in terms of just her acting capabilities.
Yep. Yeah, she's good in that, and it's interesting because like her acting doesn't really change. It actually, in a way, reminds me of Sydney Sweeney too, who kind of always sounds the same. Sydney Sweeney's kind of a lot of the times a
Sure.
very similar character. She doesn't stretch herself a lot.
Hmm.
So the things that make Dakota Johnson better in some movies are kind of subtle.
Right.
Like Daddy-O, she was still very Dakota Johnson. Very dry and all of that, but it worked in that one. So it's like finding the right movies that work for you
Yeah.
in who you are as an actor. Because maybe she's not crazy talented enough to do, the big emotional movies, right? Like she's not going to win an Oscar probably, but I think she can make some good movies, and Daddy-O was one of those for sure.
Yeah,
So
100%. And that was in theaters, Daddy-O, right?
I
Or
think so. I'm
if
pretty
like for
sure. I'm pretty
limited
sure it
time,
was.
probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the trailers for it. I remember seeing the first trailer, and I was like, okay, I actually wanted to see that.
Yeah. But it's again, like we talked about it, like probably a movie that didn't get marketed well, whereas like Madam
Hmm.
Web, right? Like that, of course, is going to have money behind it because it's
Yes, the
Marvel. Marvel?
superhero. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was Sony, but yeah.
Sony? Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it was a bad movie, like an exceptionally bad movie.
Right.
And yeah, it's interesting.
And she was the protagonist, correct, in that movie?
Yeah, yeah, she was the main character. Um,
Yeah.
and you could tell that nobody involved in that movie cared. Like just no, like the director, like nobody cared. None of
Yeah.
the actors. It's just bad.
And they probably wait, like in the actual movie they didn't care because I know like the press release and the tour and stuff like that and afterwards, I mean Sydney Sweeney made a joke about it on SNL. You
Hmm.
may know me from Euphoria and all the things you may not know me. Never heard of it. Madam Web was
Yep.
not there, was not me. Made a joke about that, which was funny when she hosted SNL. Was it last year or the year before? Probably the year before. It came out in
Ye
2023 for 24. 24.
Oh, I think it was last year. Yeah.
Yeah. When she hosted, she like purposely put that in. Yep, was not in it. Definitely, you definitely don't know me from that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. All
but
right.
yeah, can't win them all
Yeah. Yeah. And it looks like it sounds like to me something that I probably wouldn't mind at least checking out when it streams just to kind of see.
because you like
Um,
to watch bad stuff
well,
sometimes or
yeah, because I'm
stupid
curious about it.
stuff.
It doesn't sound like one I can watch with my kids though. That's what I usually watch where I watch the bad stuff is with my kids. It doesn't sound like it would appeal to them, but
No.
I might give it a watch just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, cool. Well, then we'll move on from Dakota Johnson, and I will talk about really quick. I spent some time on HBO this week, and sorry, no, Apple TV this week, and the film behind me, Highest to Lowest, came out this week, and this is an adaptation of the '60s film by Akira Kurosawa, High and Low, which I actually, after watching this, I really want to watch the original. The original is, I believe, still in black and white. It's Japanese, so hopefully it has subtitles. I believe that film is actually on HBO right now. So I'm kind of hoping I can watch it this week and see what the differences are. But this is a Spike Lee film. It is very New York, like insanely New York at times. There's a couple of scenes that to me were like advertisements for New York tourism. Like there's this whole scene where there's a big moment going on, and they cut to um oh, what's his name from Hamilton, the one that played his son. It's Ramos, Anthony Ramos. They're
Yep.
doing like a Latin festival um, somewhere near Yankee Stadium, pretty close to Yankee Stadium, near a subway station. And so there's the big street thing going on. They bring a band out on the street, and they're playing. Rosie Perez is there as Rosie Perez. Anthony Ramos is Anthony Ramos. Like they're doing their thing, but it's weird. Like it fits because they're trying to set up a busy area in the film. Um, but it's definitely like this is New York, right? Like it's so, and obviously Spike Lee is a huge New York fan. He sits at or used to sit at half court for the Knicks games with his Yankees hat on. I mean, he's a huge Yankees fan. As a matter of fact, the times that the Yankees are mentioned in this movie is absolutely insane. That same scene where they're doing the Latin festival, Denzel's on a train um, to a Yankees game, so it's filled with Yankee fans, and I mean it is very New York. The setting is blatantly New York, which is good. I mean, again, it's what Spike Lee feels, like that's his home, so he puts that into his work anyways. But the gist of this film. is that Denzel Washington is a music producer, and he was very, very successful earlier in his career. And at this point, he's on the verge of losing his label. So he's about to sell it, still living a good life. So he lives in a penthouse apartment in New York, a beautiful apartment. His wife is very pretty. They have a young son. I think he's the kid that is in the new Fresh Prince show. I could be wrong. I could be getting them mixed up. His name is Aubrey Joseph. But he's solid. Like he's really good. But he's got a loving family. He's doing well. Like he's not into necessarily any shady business or anything. Um,
Mhm.
but the first part of the movie is he's come to the realization that he doesn't want to give up his business. And so his goal is to actually buy the other people in his company out. And so he can take over the control of the label and try and bring it back to what it was. And his son is at least a relatively talented basketball player. He drops his son and his godson off at basketball practice every day, and they're coached by Rick Fox, who played for the LA Lakers in his prime, and he's coaching them. And again, it's Rick Fox playing Rick Fox. Um, and so, like, this kid's going to, basketball camps for rich and talented kids, right? And so, the interesting thing to me is early in this film, the first hour of this film felt really slow to me. There's like a lot of buildup, a lot of dialogue. But one thing that, like, I'll say right now, I did like this film. There's a lot to like. But for some reason to me, and I'm really curious to see when Andrew watches this because music is his thing big time. The background music for a lot of this film felt off to me. And it was actually the primary reason that I want to go watch High and Low because I'm wondering if they took musical ideas and musical cues from that to work it in. Because if you go look up highest to lowest on IMDb, they give Akira Kurosawa writer credits for this. He's not
Mhm.
he's not involved with it. He's not even alive anymore. He died in '98, so he had nothing to do with this film. But I wonder if um, like I said, that musical influence was because of the original film. So I'm really curious to watch it because of that, because a lot of the background music felt out of place. If he is a music producer, clearly in modern hip hop and rap music, as we meet a couple of the people that he's trying to either sign or that are trying to sign with him, um, he's doing a very modern type of music, and the background music doesn't sound like that at all. Like the soundtrack
Mhm.
doesn't sound that way at all. So it's really bizarre to me. But anyway, so the first hour of the film goes through. At some point in here, he gets a call from somebody saying they kidnapped his son and they want $17.5 million in Swiss francs, I think is what they want because it's untraceable money. And so he's like, okay, well, he starts talking to the kidnapper, and then while they're working on negotiations and figuring stuff out, they get a call, and it turns out his son is fine. And what happened is his son was leaving basketball practice with his friend, who is also Denzel Washington's godson and the son of his driver, who he's best friends with. Um, and so they find out that they effectively they kidnapped the wrong person.
Mm.
And so the kidnapper calls back. He's like, I don't care. He's like, if this dude dies, it's still blood on your hands. So, you can save this kid or not. And at first, Denzel's like, yeah, cool. It's not my kid, so I'm good. And it's like, it's really like, it's one of the moments that's like kind of crazy to me because I know he's going through stuff, but it makes him into a very like uncaring character. Like this guy, his driver, they talk like they're best friends, and if he is this kid's godson, that's how close they are. Like, but then he's like, nah, it's cool. He's like, it's not my son. I'm not going to pay the ransom, is basically what he says. He's
Mhm.
like, and the other guy's like, well, I'm your driver, dude. I don't have $17.5 million to pay a ransom, you know, and so, you know, all that goes, and then they talk him into paying the ransom. And so that's when we get to the whole scene on the train and the Latin festival downtown and all that stuff. And effectively the kidnappers get the money from him and make off with the money, and they do release the other kids, so everybody's okay. And then the second half of the film becomes like it moves way faster. Like somehow the second hour feels like 30 minutes and the first hour feels like two, you know, because it becomes a revenge film. They find out who took the kid, and him and the dad of the kid go after him, and it leads to arguably the best scene in the movie when the guy that took him, we find out, wanted to be a rapper and idolized Denzel's character and wanted to work for him, but couldn't get past, like, couldn't get his demo into his hands long enough for him to listen to be interested in him. And so they find him in his studio. So Denzel's sitting on one side of the studio glass and bad guys sitting on the other. And they have a really kind of great back and forth that is like at parts uh, shit talking as a rap battle, like, but not like hardcore, like not like 8 Mile rap battle, but
Right.
it's really interesting and really well done. Um, and it's just, to me, it's a really interesting movie, and I did like it, but it's weird to me that, like, at the end of the movie, these two men are still best friends, even though this dude like literally looked at his, you know, best friend and said, "Yeah, your kid can die. It's not my problem." And he had to be talked into giving the money up to save this guy's friend. Now, granted, I mean, 17.5 million is a lot of money, and it definitely impacts his ability to buy into his own record studio. But like, it's just really interesting. And then in the story, obviously, because of the
Hmm.
events that happen, social media comes into play and how that affects Denzel's character and things like that. I'm trying to not give too much away about the film. Um, but I mean, another thing that felt, again, in the first half of the film, a lot of the acting felt like kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but almost light. Like they just weren't trying as hard as I would have expected them to try during this film.
Hmm.
I didn't say it earlier. Jeffrey Wright plays the driver and his best friend, and Jeffrey Wright is amazing right now. He was Commissioner Gordon in the Batman movie
Batman.
with Robert Pattinson.
Hmm.
Um, he was in Westworld. I mean, he's been in all kinds of stuff in the last like 10 years, and he's just blowing up right now. Um,
For sure.
and he's you know, he's great. And I could argue that I think he gave a better performance in this movie than Denzel Washington did. And I have a ton of respect for Denzel. He's a fantastic actor. And I think in this, I think Jeffrey Wright outperformed him. And for me, this movie, I don't think will be up for any awards. Like, I don't think it's going to be talked about come award season. Um, but it is a good movie. It's a good watch. I know on IMDb it's only a 6, but on Rotten Tomatoes, I want to say it was quite a bit higher than that. Um, let me see. It's yeah, 88 from the critics, 85 from the audience. I probably put it closer to a 7 than an 8, um, again, I enjoyed it. It's good to see Denzel on screen. It's good to see him working with Spike Lee again. They have a great relationship. Um, and yeah, it's a good movie and worth checking out, especially because it's on Apple TV. If you already have Apple TV, you don't even have to pay for it. You can just go watch it whenever you want. And so to me, it's worth the time with that in mind. If this was in the theaters, I'd probably judge it more harshly, like because of the pacing. I think that first hour really could have been paced better. Um, but I think, you know, the finish, like the really the third act of this thing, really brought it home and made it really worth watching. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean the ratings are good, both
mhm.
88% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics and 85% from the critics. I'm sorry, from the audience. 85 from audience and 88% from critics. So looks to be pretty solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I again, if you have Apple TV, and unless you have a problem with Denzel or Spike Lee for some reason, I definitely
Right.
recommend it. It's good. Um, it just like I said, that first hour for me was a
Hmm.
little slow. So if you can dedicate some time to it, get through that bit and then get there, or just tell me I'm wrong. Go watch it and tell me you loved the first hour and I'm an idiot, which I will also accept. But yeah, I think it's really solid. So.
Nice.
All right, cool. Well, we can move on, and I think I'm going to have you go back to our friend Dakota real quick
Yeah,
because you also watched a Dakota Johnson movie on HBO.
I did. So I'm an HBO Max gal now that my
Hmm.
co-op that I live in added to its package this year. So now I don't, it's included in my cable package. So wahahaha. I now get access to things. So I've been able to catch up on some older movies. I know you talked about it earlier this year. I saw Companion a little over a week
Hmm.
ago, which I
Yeah.
really liked. And the other movie I watched was this one, Am I Okay? And this came out in 2000 and sorry, 2022. Yeah, 2022. And it stars Dakota Johnson and it's actually directed by Tig Notaro, who's a comedian. And I
Hmm.
don't know if you know any of her content and
Oh, I
stuff, but
love Tig Notaro. Love
yeah,
her.
yeah. So this is definitely it was under like their LGBTQ section on um like HBO Max will have their categories and stuff. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that Dakota was in a movie like this. Let me watch the trailer. It looked cute. Why not? So Dakota plays Lucy, who is figure like a young 20 something, and she isn't like the most motivated, but is more just on the quieter side. And she has a best friend named Jane who is like the complete opposite. She's incredibly ambitious, works in the business world, and Jane has a boyfriend, and pretty much she hangs out with Jane and the boyfriend a lot, almost like as a third wheel. And you see how special their friendship is and how it's been, at least 10 years plus, and how they've grown so much together over the years. And Lucy at this point is working at a spa massage spa, and she is like front desk and works with the massage therapist and scheduling and stuff. And you come to find out like they're out to dinner, Lucy, Jane, Jane's boyfriend, and they talk about just relationships and stuff. And after like a drunken night, Lucy comes out to Jane and she's like, after all these years, she's like, yeah, I'm gay. And you see at the beginning of the movie that Lucy is with a guy and he has been on a handful of dates with her and they're hanging out and she's sitting on like the edge of the bed and she puts on like music that she likes, but it happens to be like romantic music and he goes in to kiss her and she pulls away and falls off the bed. And at that point, you're just like, something's, either she's not into this guy or you're not really sure. And then, when it comes out that she's gay, she's like, I think I tried to really like convince myself that I'm straight, but I'm not straight. And then she was talking with Jane. She's like, okay, well, Jane asked her, who would you be into if you were to experiment with, a woman for the first time? Like, who do you find attractive or who are you interested in? She says, I'm interested in Brittany, who you meet in earlier in the film, who plays one of the massage therapists, and she gets like very hands-on with Lucy, and she starts like playing with her hair and massaging her shoulders, and I think she's just really interested and intrigued by her. And Brittany is played by Kiersey Clemens, and I feel like you may have seen a movie with her
She looks really
recently.
familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, she's been in like a lot of different things. I feel like it's like different stuff that's been on like Netflix or
Oh no,
um
she was in Monarch on HBO. That's probably what I remember her from.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's been in some things within like the past 5, 6 years or so. But yeah, so she plays Brittany and during the film, Lucy and Jane get um, into a fight and they don't talk anymore. And a lot of it revolves around Jane and her boyfriend. Jane gets a business opportunity to move to the UK. And at that point, Lucy's like, I don't know what I'm going to do without you, it's etc. And they end up getting to a fight. So she's like, well, I don't really have any other friends. And at one point, she's working at the front desk at work, and Brittany's like, what's going on? She's like, yeah, I don't really have any friends. And like Jane's leaving. She's like, well, I'll be your friend. And then the two of them start hanging out. And I think it's different for Lucy because she's just used to hanging out with Jane, but this is, someone that she is interested in and as more of a friend. And at that point, she, they both have like a drunken night and hang out at her place, and they end up sleeping together and stuff. And you come to find that Brittany, she's straight. Like she's straight. She's not really interested into women, but I think it's more of a like, hey, I'm interested in you. Maybe she's bisexual, but like she's more straight than anything else. But I think Lucy like catches feelings for her and then she realizes, all right, this girl might be getting back with her boyfriend. But overall, I think it really captures, and I think Dakota Johnson does a good job at really embodying someone who is trying to find their true sexuality and trying to understand their preferences and maybe feeling a bit confused and unsure and also scared living in a more of a world where I don't know 80-90% of people are straight or the point is it's a majority of people are heterosexual. So I think for her coming to that realization is scary for her. And then, eventually she goes on more dates with other women and she puts herself out there. So I think a lot of it's just her finding her own voice and then really building herself up to be like, I'm gonna make more of myself professionally. Like I'm not that anything's wrong with being a receptionist, but at one point Jane says, are you gonna do this the rest of your life? Like, are you gonna really just lunge forward and lean into your hobbies and really make something of yourself and become a professional and enjoy what you do, or are you gonna just let life pass you by? And I think that's sort of the theme here is someone who is passive, like Lucy, really spreading her wings and not only just branching out sexually and putting yourself out there in the dating market, but also professionally too in this film. So I thought it was very good. I enjoyed it, and I think Dakota Johnson does a really good job showcasing this character who's really going through this internal dilemma and trying to understand herself through the process.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine there's probably some autobiographical bits in here from Tig, although she's not listed as a writer,
Correct.
so maybe not. But
She's
um,
also in it at one point because they
yep.
go to like this retreat, Tignataro, and yeah, it's funny. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I absolutely love her. She did a great because she had cancer.
right.
And it was very scary and she did a set. I think it was right after her like immediately after her diagnosis, or it was right after
Hmm.
she finished treatment. I can't remember. It's one of the two. And it was really raw, but it was really good. It's one of the best stand-up sets I've ever seen because you can see that like emotion and heart in it, but it's still funny. Like she still managed to be funny,
Hmm.
and she's a fantastic dry comedian. Like she's not over the
Yeah,
top silly, um, but she she's absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I've always liked her. It's funny too that Molly Gordon is in this, and we just talked about her last week.
yeah,
Um, so definitely
yeah,
some up and comers in here. The girl that
for
plays
sure.
Jane, Sonoya Mizuno. Um, I recognize her. I'm not sure what from. It must be House of the Dragon, because that's really the only thing I see her. Oh no, she
Hmm.
no, she was a main character, one of the main characters in Civil War too, that I really liked.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
Not the Marvel Civil War, but Civil War.
The one from last year. Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
which is really good, but heavy ass film. So it's got a good
Hmm.
cast. It's definitely actually um, sounds really good, really interesting.
for
because,
sure.
like I said, I do like Tig, and again, if Dakota Johnson's in the right part, I think she can do a great job, and her the surrounding cast in this looks really good. So
Yeah, I thought it was solid. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was in theaters or if this was just a movie. I assume it's a movie that was just released on HBO Max. I don't know,
yeah, I
but
can't tell. The poster says June 6th on Max, so for whatever year that was. So maybe it was direct to streaming. I don't know. I definitely don't remember seeing trailers for it.
right, same here. But yeah, nonetheless, I thought it was good. And I mean, I would definitely give it maybe like 70s, low 80s. I thought it was very good. I don't know if it's a movie that like everyone's going to be talking about after, but I think, it's relatable for certain people and it's interesting. Yeah, 81% from the critics and then 62% from the audience. So, I don't know. I
Yeah,
think it's definitely eye-opening and look, I have a good amount, I shouldn't say a good amount of friends, but definitely people that I know that came out later, like in their 20s and maybe after college that I went to college with that I don't know, I didn't click with me like immediately like, oh, they're gay. But then seeing them super happy and in a relationship in their 30s or even married, it's one of those things where maybe it takes some people a couple years to really come to that decision, or I shouldn't say decision, but really to that realization of their preference. So, yeah.
yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, like I said, I might check it out. I really like the cast, and um, looks like it should be a good one to watch.
Yeah, and it was short too. It wasn't like a long film at all. And
Oh
I
yeah,
think,
hour and 26 minutes. Yeah.
yeah, really short, to the point. So, yeah, I thought she did a good job, Dakota Johnson. And it was definitely believable, like just based on her acting, that she's someone who is more just on the quieter side and reserved, whereas her friend's very much so confident out there, a go-getter. And yeah, you learn a lot through this friendship. And I think also just after their fight too, she's really able to, I think, take a step and put herself out there and be able to learn more about herself over time. But I think it's a real thing where I think some people may feel like something's wrong with them for feeling a certain way. And perhaps even just, especially if you have like an upbringing, I can't relate, right? Because I'm straight and yeah, but I can imagine, right? Um, People having these thoughts like, is something wrong with me?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I spent a lot of years in theater and music, and so I've had a lot of friends that have gone through that. I remember even in high school, maybe it was right after I graduated, and I was working with the band in high school, and a friend of mine was in charge of some other stuff, and I was talking to him one day, and he's like, "Hey, man, I got to tell you something." And I was like, "Cool, whatever. Yeah, what's going on?" He's like, "I'm gay," and I was like, "Dude, I know." I was like,
Yeah,
I know you don't like, didn't feel like you knew, but like,
but
but
you as his
yeah,
friend knew.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, but, and then changes absolutely nothing. Like, I
yeah,
was like, you and I we're always going to be cool. Like,
totally.
and so like, but I've been like, I've been there with people as they go through it. And I've been friends with people that, I mean, I remember in high school, I had a couple friends that were like out gay as early as, freshman year of high school,
Sure.
so um yeah, it just it's an interesting world, and I get the discomfort, actually one of my cousins is gay, and yeah, it's not an easy thing to deal with, because even if you are super comfortable with it, you still have to calculate what the outside world is going to do with that information,
Correct.
right? Like it's weird. Like, so I mean, there are people that come out to their family, and their families are like, "Cool, go." get out, and that's
Yeah.
crazy to me. Like and so yeah, there's so much pressure with it, so much just scariness behind it that I don't think we can really understand as straight people. We can try to, and we can, balance it. We can
Right.
watch movies about it and things that educate us, but
Yeah.
like the actual like tension and thoughts that go back and forth in somebody's brain, um, yeah, is crazy to me.
Right. Because even though, like, yes, things are more progressive now and it's more acceptable to be heterosexual, I mean, sorry, yeah, more acceptable to be to be, I don't even want to say to be to be gay, right? To be
Yeah.
gay. It's not necessarily going to change the fact that someone, I mean, really, like, I think as society, we're conditioned or taught really, like, at a young age, you'll marry
Hmm.
the opposite
Yeah.
sex someday. It's just kind of like when you're younger, I don't think we're at the point even where, unfortunately, I think a lot of children, it's more like secondary. It's always going to be secondary, same sex, unfortunately. Like people, it's never, or I don't want to say it's never, but at this point, I still think it's secondary. Like you learn about, you
Yeah.
know, the opposite sex
Yeah, I feel like
and that
even with
first.
my kids, it was like, yeah, when you get married, blah, 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 to, somebody, and like even just like the natural way you say it could be, God, we got all boys, so like,
Right,
it could be a boy or whatever, but like there's like this natural inclination to make it sound like it's an option, but not necessarily like as expected as the other one. And I think that's unintentional. It's just like
right.
because that is how I am, that's how the rest of the world would be.
Yeah,
And I think some of that understanding obviously comes with age too. Like kids are interesting because I don't think they, at a young age, unless they're taught, I don't think they even care about the idea of
no,
gay or straight relationships because they just like who they like. They're friends with whoever they are friends with. And
correct.
granted, a young kid isn't going to have the brain development to have think about somebody romantically, right? I mean, you kind of think you do at like, little kid, you're like, that's my girlfriend.
Yeah,
But like, you're not thinking about it that way. But at the same time, like, I feel like kids don't care until they're taught to care.
correct.
And I
Which is
think,
maybe like adolescence or later. Yeah. And even
yeah.
then, like some people might change their mind, which is totally cool
Mhm.
because they're still figuring it out.
But I feel like there's a bell curve for understanding too. Like kids, they don't understand, so they're cool with it. We get older and then we live in the world and we're like, oh, maybe this stuff is weird or not okay or whatever. And then as
Right,
you grow and mature and start to realize life, you kind of come back down. You're like,
right.
everything is what it is and it should be okay. Some people always stay up at the
Sure.
top, but
I
um,
also think that sexuality is a spectrum. It's not you're gay, you're straight, you're bisexual. There's
yeah,
different, like I know I two of my very close friends are lesbian and one is always with women and one has dated men in the 10, 15 years that I've been friends with her. She, I think, dates more women than men, but she has been with men. So,
yeah,
it really changes. So it's not, you can't really put everyone in a box,
yeah,
gay, straight. And I remember my dad was asking me about one of my friends. He's like, wait, so is she bi? And I'm like, no, she identifies as a lesbian, but she's had a boyfriend. I'm like, yes. And I'm not going to question what she identifies as because sometimes, like, let's be real, like, some people need to date guys to realize, I don't know if I like men. And then
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know why you guys do. We're gross, man. Guys are
you
terrible.
are you are gross, but not
Yeah.
you specifically. But
Um,
yes, but that's the thing. It's just, yeah, it's yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it is what it is. Like I'm
It
a
is
big
what it
fan of the
is.
yeah, I'm a big fan of the idea that love is love and who you love is who you
Totally.
love. Like
Totally.
and if you like the same sex but also the opposite sex and that changes, based on the person, I think that's the fairest
Right.
way to do it. You don't have to label yourself at all if you don't feel like it. Um
100%.
and
So, yeah,
I
and I'm
I just
learning
want people to be
more.
happy, you
Totally.
know?
And that's what it should be at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
But I think you learn more as you get older and you meet more people. just what they prefer and how like everybody has different preferences and like gay is not just there's many shades of gray, right? Like gay is not just gay. And there's so many different people that have certain preferences in the type of people that they want to date.
Hmm.
I mean, Miley Cyrus, what did she? I think she forgot which. I mean, there's different just identities and things that people will. I'm trying to think what Miley Cyrus identified herself as. Sexual orientation, I think it was because at one point she was married to Liam Hemsworth and not
Yep.
pansexual.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I think we just learn sometimes as life goes on. And I mean, how many people, probably not as common now, but I remember my dad mentioned growing up that like one of his really good friends was married. And then one day his wife was like, I like women, sorry. And then like, I mean, I think that's like less common now because people are more so experimenting earlier in that stuff or are less likely to go through with a marriage because it's more traditional, whereas now I think people are more likely to be more hesitant to enter marriage, let alone with the wrong sex or with the sex that they don't prefer. But, it happens.
Man, it makes me think of this show on Netflix, Grace and Frankie. Did you ever watch that one?
No.
It's Martin Sheen, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, and the other husband is Sam Waterston from um, Law and Order. But the gist of the story, like the show opens up, these two
Hmm.
couples are at dinner. So it's Martin Sheen is married to Jane Fonda, and Sam Waterston is married to
Hmm.
Lily Tomlin. And side note, Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda are like best friends in real life. But at this
Cool.
dinner where these people are not young, right? This show came out in the last like decade.
Hmm.
Um, Martin Sheen and Sam Waterston's character announced that they're gay. They've been gay their whole lives and have been a couple. And on their business trips, they've been
Doing
having
their
their
thing.
affair, and they decided they want to come out. And so the
Right.
rest of the show is like, because these two women on the show don't get along. So Grace and Frankie are like, yeah, we're not buddies. But these two guys are like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this thing, and we're going to take this house, and you guys have to figure your shit out. So the two women end up moving in together. And then it's a lot about their relationship, but also how they navigate this thing where they still love their husbands, but even though they're not going to be with them. And so yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really fun show,
Oh,
and it's
sure.
it's really great. But um, and yeah, it really is a lot of fun. So, but it makes me think of that like it it doesn't matter at some point in your life if you are, you're probably going to deal with it in some way or another, and
Correct.
sometimes that's coming out even at 70 or whatever,
I think of like
Um,
Caitlyn Jenner just finding out. Well, she knew for a while, but actually coming out publicly.
yeah.
And granted, she's trans, which I don't know if she's into men, because I mean, she was married at least, I think, what, three times as when she was Bruce.
I think so.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think it's just more acceptable, or people aren't coming out as, or will not be coming out as late as in the
Yeah.
past. So, but yeah, it was again good movie. I do recommend it. I think there's definitely not enough being talked about it, and I'm glad I was able to come across it on HBO Max now that I have it. And yeah, I liked the little synopsis breakdown and the trailer looked good, and I definitely enjoyed the movie. So for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. Cool. Well, I'm really quickly because I really haven't watched much this week.
Sure.
But I am almost done with season 3 of Ozark, so I'll talk about that when Andrew's on because you haven't seen Ozark, right?
I haven't.
Yeah. So I'll talk about it, and I'm not done with the season, so that works out well.
Cool.
I'm hoping to finish that this week. But my family and I watched. We went through the last several weeks. We've been watching the old Netflix show Daredevil, which filmed in like 2017, kind of before Marvel quite knew what they were doing with their stuff, and so the Netflix superhero shows were a little separate um, from like the greater Marvel universe. Like characters didn't really cross over. Storylines did, like they referenced them, but it wasn't like
Hmm.
hard. Excuse me, it wasn't hard references. Like they would mention a couple of things here and there, but they were really two separate kind of excuse me, two separate kind of worlds. And so they left that out. But one thing about the Netflix shows, they were super gritty. Like they were really mature. There was violence, there was sex, there was, I think in Luke Cage, there was nudity. Like they were adult shows
Hmm.
and they were well made, very mature. Um, and really well done. And so we watched Daredevil, and there's a couple of times here and there where maybe the plot line got a little slow or whatever, but overall it was a really good show. And so this year, I think it was earlier this year, um, they finally brought back Daredevil into Disney's Marvel, the MCU kind of thing, with a series called Daredevil Born Again. Um, and so we started the first episode. We're only two episodes in right now, but um, it was interesting because everything I've seen talked about how great this show was, the Daredevil Born Again. And then at the same time, last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe, I saw they were talking about season two, and they basically announced that season two was the last season they're going to do of the show. And I was like, well, if it's great and successful, why are you only doing two seasons? And so when we finally started watching it, it's interesting because I go on IMDb and there is not an episode rated below an 8. Like
Mm.
it's rated great. And I think I really disagree. I watched the first episode and there's some things that happen story-wise that kind of suck as a fan of some of the characters, but not necessarily make it a bad thing. Uh, but one thing like that I was immediately struck by is that the sets felt like sound stages. Like the production quality seemed lower, even though it had Disney's budget behind it. Like everything felt like sound stages versus the original. It felt like it was shot in New York. It felt like it was shot in Hell's Kitchen, New York. It felt, gritty and dark. The rooftops felt like real rooftops. These like they really look like fake rooftops. They felt like sound stages. In the original, there was at least once a season, there was at least one fight scene that was so well choreographed that it was a continuous fight scene for like 5 to 10 minutes long, going in between rooms, switching places, and when you watch the making of and see the choreography that they do, it's incredible. Like so, the effort put in to make this look real was amazing. In this one, like immediately there's like CGI and fight scenes, like like it just lost some of that realism for me that the other one had. And yeah, it just didn't feel the same. Like the characters felt a little different. There were some things that happened between Netflix's Daredevil and this one that were hugely critical to know what happened. And I think if you didn't watch the other Netflix shows that came out in between, so Kingpin is the bad guy in Daredevil. He showed up in a show called Echo. He was the main character in that, and there was and he showed up in Hawkeye, and so they explained like how basically he got out of prison after the Daredevil Netflix series ended. But when this show jumps in, if you had only watched the Netflix Daredevil and then watched this one, you wouldn't even understand how he got out of prison. Like there's big pieces that require you to have knowledge that you may not have, and they don't bother to kind of catch you up on it at all. And so that was weird. And I just, overall, I haven't loved it yet. It just feels a little um, less impressive than the original series. And so we're going to watch it. We're going to finish it and we'll watch the second season when it comes out.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it just feels like, for lack of a better word, it kind of got Disneyfied. It could have been a better show, and I think with the budget and the money and all that, I just expected more, and it just wasn't it. So We're gonna watch and go through it, but yeah, just I was disappointed. So we'll see what happens down the line, and like I said, I'm really curious because great ratings across the board. Like there is literally the worst rated episodes are
Oh,
8.0. So like it's doing really well. Um, ratings wise, I don't know what the viewership was, and maybe that's the decision to cut it off a season, at season two.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, we'll see. So
And this is on Disney Plus?
it's on Disney Plus now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would recommend to anybody that is a fan of the superhero genre, right? And if you're not, then this stuff isn't for you, anyways. But the original Netflix show, so Daredevil, Jessica Jones, one of my favorites out of all of them was Luke Cage. Iron Fist was probably the worst of the four. But those shows were good. Like they were well done. They were gritty. And they felt, even though they were, superhero shows or hero shows, they felt really grounded and really real. So I recommend those for sure. But I'm curious for anybody that watches this that has seen Daredevil Born Again, what your takeaway is, and if you think I'm crazy or not, because the ratings say that I am. Like the ratings say I'm an idiot and I have no idea what I'm talking about. But yeah, just felt a little cheap to me compared to the original.
Oh, and I
So
know one of the actors from the movie, Camar de los Reyes. He was in
he,
my
he
mom's favorite soap opera. He passed away.
yeah, he passed away. He plays a character in this, and so the second episode
Hmm.
is the first his first appear. What the hell? The second episode is his first appearance,
Hmm.
and they put a dedication in there because he passed away. So at the very beginning, it says dedicated to Kamar.
Los
Is it De Los Reyes?
Reyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Um,
well, I watched quite a bit for a number of years too, but my mom's favorite soap opera on ABC was One Life to Live, and he
mhm.
played Antonio. And yeah, I remember seeing online that he passed away, which is so sad because he was pretty
He was only
young.
56 when he passed away. It was cancer.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
horrible.
yeah, so a real bummer because that was just last year. Like they filmed
Hmm.
his stuff and then he passed away, and so it was really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I recognized him too. Like that's the hard part. You see somebody's names in the credits,
Mhm.
you think about like because especially now as being as old as I am, right?
Right.
Like you see somebody passing away in their 50s and you're like, shit. Like that's not because I remember in my junior year in high school,
Hmm.
I had a social studies teacher and he would post the obituaries on his board every day. He'd tape them up, cut them out of newspaper, and tape them up there. And we were like, what, why do you do that? And he said, sometimes I have to be able to look at people and like understand that this stuff is kind
Hmm.
of real now. Like, so there are people in here, maybe I don't know them, but I'm fortunate to be able to outlive somebody that, unfortunately died younger than me. He's like, but people are, you got to put life in perspective and do
Yeah.
with it what you can while you got it. So, yeah, it's definitely as you get older, you start to see more people around your age, and you're just like, shit. Like there's a
Yeah.
mortality thing there, so it's a little crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely a bummer to see because I already knew he was in this and I already knew he passed away. So when his name popped up in the credits, I was like, shit, that's right.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's a bummer. Um, but yeah, the show is supposed to be great. So I'm going to ride it out for sure. Watch the next season. But like I said, for me, at least so far, I actually preferred the original Netflix version more than this one.
Yeah,
So all right, cool. Well, then you have one last thing, right? You watched
I do.
um, the Diane Sawyer interview.
I did. Occasionally I'll catch one of these interviews that she has, and this one was definitely in quite a bit of commercials leading up to it, and I started watching it today, even though I think it viewed 2 weeks ago. But it is an interview that she had with so it's called The Unexpected Journey, and it's revolving around Emma having Willis and Bruce Willis and specifically focuses on the pretty, I think it's highly publicized now, and it has been the past few years, the decline of
Mhm.
Bruce Willis and his health. And officially in 2022, he was diagnosed with FTD, which stands for um, frontotemporal dementia. So what they
Mhm.
were explaining in the special is that like there's different types of dementia, but his type of dementia is really like in the front part of the brain, and it's incredibly just horrible and such a like a very it sounds like a very fast digression from what
Mhm.
she's explaining. I guess pre-COVID, there were some people that said like he was not able to remember his lines, and he was definitely, unfortunately, I guess he started with the stutter when he was younger, and his stutter was coming back. Uh, Emma Hemming and him got married in 2009, I think, met a few years prior, and they had or I mean, he's still alive, right? But they have had a really strong relationship. And then I guess within the past like 5 to 10 years, she's definitely noticed some things with him. And granted, there's like a 25-year difference in age gap between them. And she noticed that he was more just impulsive and taking not as much of an interest and losing interest in everyday things. And initially, she was thinking like their marriage was dying and they were having marital problems, but it was more just some of the symptoms of this horrible disease. And I mean, what she explained in the interview was, he was more withdrawn and not as engaged with the children that he has. So he has 3 kids with Demi Moore, and then him and Emma Hemming Willis have 2 children who are now, I believe, like 10 and 12 or like preteen age. And she noticed that he was just not as engaged with the family and was definitely not as outgoing and wanting to go out and do things. He was more just, I think, quiet and pensive and not his, I guess, the man that she has been married to at this point, I think like for 15, 16 years, so earlier in the relationship. So I think she was very nervous, thinking like, all right, we're headed for divorce, et cetera. And meanwhile, he's having these other symptoms where he is losing the ability to communicate and really just put together and utilize language. And I think that's like become the most significant and I think tragic part of this disease, because he has like no recollection anymore on like how to speak or even just what's actually going on. And from what she was saying, he's not aware of what's happening to him. So much so then you've probably seen in the news they had to move him to a different home. So what they've done is he lives, they call it the second home, but he's in a one floor level home with 24-hour care. And herself and the kids will go like in the morning or in the evening to see Bruce Willis. And Diana Sawyer asked, like, does he know who you are? And she says, I think he knows that I'm someone that cares about him, but she doesn't think he knows at this point and can put together that that they're a married couple. That's how much of a decline. However, he's walking, and is able to do things like that. Like mobily, he's fine, but it's all just in the brain itself. And it's just incredibly, you could just tell during this interview, weighing very heavily on her. And I mean, she's 47, right? And they've been married for like 16 years or so at this point. So she never expected this. and such. And I think it's hard for her young children to comprehend and
Hmm.
telling them and then how she's been a real advocate in the community for this disease and how she's connected with other caretakers and people that are with family members, whether it be a significant other or a parent who's struggling with this. But I think the loss of language is huge and just obviously
Hmm.
forgetfulness and in many cases everyday function. And that's been very rough. And luckily, she has the support of Demi Moore and the three her three stepdaughters,
Hmm.
Rumor, Tallulah, and Scout Lewis. They're all just very compassionate, and it seems like this blended family is very close. And, it's not, if anything, they're all very supportive of Bruce Willis, and you see all the kids together in this second home, you know, hugging him or really just spending time with him, even though he's not really aware of what's happening, but they're all there and it's all out of love. So it's good to see that both, families are together and it's not, an awkward thing. It's more of a we're here for Bruce and we're gonna support him till the very end. And yeah, definitely heartbreaking to hear, but I think it's one of those interviews where she is advocating as much as she can for research and they mention that just some things with prevention, low stress, diet, exercise, social connections are very huge too. I was reading somewhere in terms of just like Alzheimer's and just dementia in general, one of the best activities that can help with just increasing, you know, memory cells and in many cases there's less of a likelihood of developing Alzheimer's is ballroom dancing. How that activity is very much so good for your not only your physical health but also your mental health too, having to remember and keep in line and memorizing steps.
Yeah, f funny enough, I don't know you got more, but the other day we just put on, there's a show on Disney Plus with Chris Hemsworth called Limitless, where
Oh,
he
okay.
is doing stuff. And the very first episode, he is hanging out with Ed Sheeran, and Ed Sheeran teaches him to play the drums. And they have I don't know, she's not a psychologist. I think she's a brain scientist of some kind that is basically talking the science of the things that Chris Hemsworth is doing.
Mm,
And she says dancing, um, drums, because you have to be able to anything that engages both sides of your brain. So you've got memory and movement, right? And those things. And so
right.
drums is the same way. You've got to be able to count the beats, do things with both hands in different ways. And
Yeah.
um, it was really interesting. So funny enough, I just seen something about that where, yeah, it's actually really great for your brain to do these things that require you to use both sides of both hemispheres of the brain.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a bit of a tangent, but I don't know if you've ever seen the Netflix documentary Blue Zones at
Mm-mm.
all. Oh, fantastic. It connects the areas of the world with the most, do we want to call them, I think, are they called centurions? The most people that are 100
Mm-hmm.
years
Centenarians,
old or
yeah.
older, centurions. And there's only one place in the US that's considered a blue zone. It's in California, something Loba, Casa Loba.
Is it Villalobos?
Okay, blue zone. It's blue zone. I'm checking it now on Google. Zone in California. Anyway, there's so many Loma Linda, Loma Linda,
Okay, Loma Linda.
California.
Okay, yeah.
Apparently, that area has like more people that live to 100, and they were interviewing people and saying like, "What are you doing? There's more people swimming." But they say the sport that equates to the longest longevity is tennis, and it's funny because my dad is really into pickleball, and pickleball is the number one growing sport in the world. And knowing that like pickleball is smaller scale tennis, but it's one that's more so, I think, been I don't want to say more socially acceptable for elderly, but like as you're getting older, you're not going to be running as fast and having that mini court access, but also having some of the similar movements and even just the way the game's played is very more similar to tennis, you know? So it's interesting how like there are certain things that equate to a longer life. So I mean, they do talk about that. They talked about some like genetic, um, I forgot the exact phrasing and verbiage of this, but there are ways like if you catch dementia early on, they're now providing like some sort of scientific. Basically, you can have certain like genetic coding erased where you can reverse the symptoms if you catch it
Wow.
early on, which is fascinating. So they did talk about that. So if anything, like she is definitely her advocacy, and she even said like the average person with dementia lives, I think she said like on, or at least this type of dementia, 5 to 8 years. And each year in terms of like care, the average in terms of like medical costs was just under $120,000 a year for this. And, and she even said, like, we're a family with means and resources. We can't imagine what the average American family that's going through this I mean, like, because of the fact that he gets 24-hour care, Bruce Willis could probably live maybe even like another 5 years for all we know with this disease.
What makes it do they talk about it like what makes it ultimately fatal? Like does it start to affect like motor skills
Motor, I think
and
eventually it
okay,
does, or
okay.
just even like, well, they said at one point you might not even know how to like remember how to breathe.
Hmm.
So, which are not necessarily like the walking skills, but if you like can't chew your food, like you might choke, things like that. So, yeah, it's hard to say, but I mean, he's getting care 24 hours, and clearly, like someone like him is going to last longer than the average American that's diagnosed with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely heart-wrenching to hear her talk about, her marriage and how she had thoughts like, all right, is this the end? He's just losing interest in the marriage. Is something going on here when it's really just, no, this guy is suffering with a very serious brain disease.
Yeah. It's scary because I feel like it's one of those things where I'm sure there's a way to test and know. It's probably not
Sure.
cheap to test and know. Um, but like there's sort of a fear it could really just happen to you. Like, you just
Right?
like what if, like it's weird to think about. I could be sitting in a room with my kids and just not know who they are. And so it definitely
Yep.
weird for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was very close with my um, paternal grandmother. She was like my best friend, and she passed away in 2014, and she died of COPD, but she was sharp as a tack. And there were days she was in so much pain, and she would say to me, I don't know what's worse, being in so much physical pain and feeling like you can't do anything, or just completely unaware of what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I had this discussion with my son. I forget how we ended up on it, but we're talking about people that are, you know, legitimately mentally retarded. Like if you, I see people that are deficient in whatever way that it is,
Sure,
and a lot of times they look fucking happy all the time. And I'm like, he's like
because they
being
don't know.
oblivious to the things in the world that suck. Does it actually make your life even like, I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know. Like we think that their life is not good because they can't see and do the things that
correct.
we can do. But if they're just living the life that they know and they really are happy, now I get sometimes I think they're cognizant enough to know there's things they can't do and that frustrates them, and then that would be difficult for sure.
Yeah,
Um, but like I wonder, like if you were oblivious enough to just kind of live in your world and go on, would are they actually like happier than we are because life isn't,
correct. And that was kind
it's
of the question
curious.
my
Yeah.
grandmother was telling me, and it was specifically, I'll tell you a quick story because I This is a classic like story, a Smith family story. My grandmother, let's say it was like anywhere between 2010 and like 24, no, in 2013 because she passed away in 2014. She This woman had cancer like two or three times, like completely like falling apart physically, but like mind sharp as a tack, right? And she died at um yeah, 86 years old. And I remember I think I was in college and she took a fall and she had two arms, but only one was functioning. She had, I think, like cancer of the brachial plexus, and she had like full, like no usage of her arm. It just hung there at a certain point, and was throughout my childhood. I just knew my grandmother really with the ability of only using one hand, and eventually the whole arm just on her right side just went dead,
Hmm.
basically. So I think that unfortunately interfered with her balance. She lived in where we grew up in Rockland County, New York, and she also had we have a family condo in Florida, and she was in Florida. It was like during the winter season when she was down there, and she I guess hit her head on like the bed and like fell out of bed, something like that. She was getting out of bed and she slipped and fell, and she's bleeding from her head. And my grandma, being the badass that she was, she well, first of all, her fault. May she rest in peace. She didn't wear her life alert because it wasn't stylish, but that's a whole other conversation. But bleeding from her head, crawling across with one arm across the floor to get a phone and somehow like call either my dad or my uncle. I forgot who she called, but she ended up getting an ambulance. And as she's getting pulled away in the ambulance, bleeding from her head, and I'm sure like paramedics are like taking her to a local hospital, this woman that lives in the building who apparently had completely lost it, just deep into like dementia, says, "Hi, Phyllis, how are you? Not so good," as she's on the stretcher. "I'm going to the hospital." And this woman's smiling away and she's like, "Okay, have a great day," and continues walking. And Kevin, like, I think of that story all the time. And we joke about it in my family. We're like, my grandma was just like, "What the hell?" And she would specifically reference the story. And she says, "I don't know if I'd be like, if I'm just like better off, you know, falling apart here physically, or just like this woman has no clue what's happening. I'm on a stretcher, bleeding from my head, and she's just like happy as a clam. And she's like, "Have a great day." No
Hmm.
idea, like, cannot conceptualize, like, hey, in stretcher, going to hospital, like, this is serious. And we're laughing because, well, the way my grandma told stories was just hysterical, but also just her way of being like, "I think I'm better off just feeling pain because, like, she's just has no idea what's happening in this world." And that's kind of that story. But that goes back to this whole piece here. I think it is like a question that people may ask, like, would you rather be, I don't want to say the word brain dead, but really not being able to use your brain, or, being able to be sharp as a tack towards the end of life, but knowing your body can't keep up and is in a different place. So I think that was what we saw firsthand with my grandmother. Complete opposite of what's going on with Bruce Willis, who can apparently still walk and is functional, etc. And Diane Sawyer and him were very, or at least at one point were like pretty close. She mentions during the interview, like they didn't film it, but she went to go visit him in the house, and he didn't really like he couldn't speak to her, but he held her hand and smiled, like knew that she was someone that was important in his life.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Like I don't want to find out, like it's not an experiment I want to do.
Sure.
Um, but it's definitely an interesting question to like ponder and hope that, and you have to hope that like he's happy in whatever's going on, like
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a frustration when you look at people that you do know, but you
Yep.
don't know them and like, but you feel like you recognize them. Like, I'm sure there's frustration there. I'm sure it's hard. So yeah, it definitely, again, not something I want to find out first or secondhand if I can avoid it.
Right.
Um, but definitely something to think about for sure.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, cool. Do you have anything else for the week on that very light and happy note that we finished on there?
No, I don't. sad.
That's okay. I don't either, but I'm actually a little excited for next week. This Sunday a new show drops on HBO called Task that looks really good. It's literally about a task force. It starts Mark Ruffalo and a couple other people.
Hmm.
Should be a good like cop drama show. Um,
Yeah.
and then it's either HBO or Apple TV. I can't remember. There's a movie called Friendship that just came out with Paul Rudd, and another guy that's like looks
I
like it's a
almost selected that this
yeah.
evening and I was like, I think I'm gonna go with The Interview, which is like, I don't know, just shorter. But yeah, that looks good too.
Yeah, so I'll probably catch that before next week.
Hmm.
I think Andrew is out next week, so that'll actually give me a lot of time to finish up Ozark, so I may not rush on that one.
Sure.
I try to get these other things in first. I feel like there's something else. My son might want to go see The Conjuring with me next weekend, so I might see the final Conjuring movie next weekend.
I
I've
will
also
not being seeing that
noticed
movie.
I've also noticed that horror movies are starting to show up on the streaming
Yes,
services because
they
we're into that
are.
season. So, um,
Spooky.
yeah, I might try and find some other gaps in my horror knowledge. I think last year I did all of the 80s horror flicks that I had
Yeah.
never ever taken the time to watch. So, some cool stuff to catch up on there. So, yeah, next week should be a good one, even if Andrew is too cool to hang out with us.
I think he is back next week.
No, no, he said he's out for
Oh,
sure
he's out
next
for
week. Yeah.
Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, this week he almost made it and then couldn't, and then next week he's definitely out. So he'll be
Gotcha.
back in two
Okay.
weeks. So if for some reason that I can't explain, you're only watching the show for Andrew, uh, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know he's a handsome guy. He's really nice
He's cool,
and
but we're cool
whatever.
too.
Yeah, yeah. We're not chopped liver, all right.
Yeah.
So, all right then. Well, with that, I will say thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.